We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mrs. Phillips, do you want to introduce?
Yes, this is Mo Grau. He's a fifth grader at Maple Grove, and he's our spotlight student, but he's going to start us off with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Because we come after the photo. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the agenda, and are there any questions or amendments? Having here no comment, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Do I have a second? Second. Thanks, Ms. Dunnigan-Smith. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda is adopted. Next, we have a very special reward tonight, and I think I'm going to turn over to Mr. Russell for this. It's the Shining Star Award.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Excuse me, I woke up hoarse this morning. Tonight for the Shining Star Award nomination. The Shining Star Award recognizes an employee, student, or community member who has gone beyond the expected to make the Center Grove community a better place. To be eligible for a Shining Star Award, the nominee must have exhibited actions that go beyond his or her normal job duties or daily responsibilities. The nominee must demonstrate that he or she went above and beyond in one of four areas. He or she must have made a difference in the life of someone else, fostered a more productive workplace or school community, encouraged teamwork and collaboration within the Center Grove Community School Corporation or community, and initiated a positive change. So tonight I would like to nominate Chris Hickey, Program Coordinator for Center Grove's Blessings in the Backpack Program for the Shining Star Award. Chris took on the role of Program Coordinator as a volunteer for Center Grove's Blessings in the Backpack Program in 2012. 2012. This is 2025. All those years volunteering. The program provides a bag of food goods to students who have been identified by their counselors as food insecure and receiving free meals. This is often the only food they will have all weekend. While most would agree this is a worthy program, executing it is quite a feat. It's a feat Chris has taken on every week that the school is in session for more than 12 years. Every week that the school is in session. Think about it. Under Chris's direction, Center Grove's Blessings in a Backpack program has grown from 2 elementary schools to all 6 elementary schools. They now feed around just hundreds of students every week. Chris coordinates all of it. With the help of her husband, Dan, she solicits donations, lines up volunteers, and transports food from the local Meijer every week. They've had to navigate changing locations several times due to the growth in space in Center Grove. Chris has said she is inspired by students who come to volunteer each week. She said she loves seeing them take pride in helping their fellow students and find confidence in their ability to help others. Chris has 2 children who graduated from Center Grove. She is a managing partner at an Indianapolis law firm where she has worked for more than 35 years. And next school year, Chris plans to hand the reins of this program to a new program coordinator. We are very grateful for her incredible service, commitment, and dedication to our school corporation and this program, and feel she is more than worthy of this Shining Star Award.
Groups of volunteers, and I have invited, if you guys would please come up, who have just come on their own, not part of a group, not part of football or choir or track. They just started coming and have come, and not only have they done that, they have taken this program on like it's their own. They have taken charge. They walk in and they know where to like get the food and make decisions about, should we give two cans of soup, or should we give extra here? They have stood in when we weren't able to be there. They have become leaders. Bailey and Ashley have spoken at 2 of our fundraisers and in front of a big group of adults and done a beautiful job and meaningful and really touched lives. Where at one of our fundraisers, the people were crying. So I have to say, this is a community effort, and I am so thankful. When I first came in this building and said, if you guys will let us do it, we will make it work. And it's through the support of our friends, Angie, come up here, Dan, come up here, please. And my husband and others who weren't able to be here, that this program has been able to continue and to feed these children, and it's important. And I thank you for helping us find the next person who's gonna carry this baton, and she confirmed today that she's gonna lead it and continue the program. So, thank you for your support. Thank you for this, but this is for everybody. And can you guys give your names, please?
I'm Ashley Rice, and I'm a senior.
I'm Bailey and I'm a senior.
I'm Quinn, and I'm a senior.
I'm Alex, and I'm a senior.
I'm Adam, I'm also a senior.
And
Also have to recruit juniors.
yes, and I don't know that we'll ever find a group that's amazing. And for those that aren't here, they get our thanks as well. So, and Angie Sadro, Dave Nicky, Angie Schoolcraft, and there are 2 others that have come consistently, Joyce and Lauren, who couldn't be here today, but I thank them as well.
Take a picture of
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Congratulations on your son, too.
Thanks.
He's amazing.
We kind of like him. Oh, he's all right. He's all right.
Can't take him back, he's past the warranty anyway, so.
He's not 18, so I can't like just
Oh,
toss him out.
true, you
either.
gotta keep him a little bit longer.
Now he's going to produce, so we really like that.
Thank you for that. That's always a special award. Now let's move to the Center Grove Spotlight, and I'll introduce Principal Brooke Phillips to recognize a student, teacher, and support employee who are doing a wonderful job at
Mr.
Maple Grove.
Daniels, I hate to interrupt, before we get off that,
Oh, sorry.
what we just saw was a perfect example of what a grassroots program can do here in the community, because that's what it came from. It wasn't something planned out, it just started as a grassroots thing and grew, and very proud of that.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Appreciate that. Brooke, the floor is yours.
So excited to be here tonight, and what a great way to start off the meeting, because we benefit from their visits every single week of Maple Grove, and lots of our students benefit from that as well. So, very, very grateful for all of their efforts. But tonight is Maple Grove Spotlight Night, and so I'm excited to recognize some special folks at Maple Grove. And so I'm actually gonna start with Moog Rao, who is a 5th grader at Maple Grove, and I'm gonna have him come up here and join me. I don't have paper notes, so it's on my phone, so I just want you to know I wasn't playing on my phone, it's my real notes from Moog. But Moog was chosen as our Spotlight winner because he not only placed first in his division in Maple Grove Science Fair recently, he got to go on to the Regional Science Fair to represent his school, and won first place in his division in the Regional Science Fair, and got to go represent Maple Grove at the state competition. I don't know that we've had, at least in the 13 years I've been at Maple Grove, any student go to the state science fair competition. So that is a really big honor that you went and represented our school. So like any good science fair participant, he had to bring his board and his project with him. And so I was going to share what it is, but do you mind for a moment just telling them what your project was about, maybe giving them a little bit of an idea of what you learned from it? Thank
I'm gonna come around and see you.
Yeah, we'll come around.
Yeah, it's really.
Yeah, we're gonna come around and see you.
Okay, so
Here, give them a second to come around and then they'll check it out.
this is my project. It's about a special probe called the parabola, which is used to amplify anything that produces waves such as sound, light, heat, Wi-Fi, etc. The parabola is used in this experiment. I built a parabola with a 24-inch diameter and 6-inch depth, and I placed my microphone, which I don't have here, but I placed it at different intervals along the central axis of my parabola. And at each interval, I recorded the sound intensity, and I put it on the graph. And as for the graph, the point at which the sound was the loudest was 6 inches, which was the focal point of the parabola, which is the point where the sound waves meet, which is the loudest point. This proves my hypothesis that the loudest point in a parabola is going to be where all the sound waves meet, and that will be a mathematical focal point. The parabola is used in many real-life applications, such as the military to triangulate the location of people who are lost in the woods, surveillance, hearing aids, sound enhancers, and much more. The parabola is also used in the James Webb Space Telescope, which uses a mirror parabola to take pictures of deep space, and in satellites and dishes. The parabola, this experiment could be further improved by me building a solar cooker, which uses a parabola to boil water and cook an egg. I could also build a Wi-Fi enhancer, which uses a parabola to improve Wi-Fi signal. So this is my parabola that I used for my experiment. This is the real size that I used there. I just placed my microphone and then I moved it along different intervals. At each interval, I recorded the sound intensity, and I found out the loudest point, which was 6 inches from the parabola, which was the focal point. And I also won a medal for the regionals science field, grand champion, and also I won a certificate.
And he won a special award at the state competition. He was recognized by the National Organization of Black and Chemical Engineers. So he received that special honor at the state science fair. And might I add, he has a smaller model of his parabola with him because at the state, was the state competition mode?
Yes,
There was a size component and that he could not bring his full model, so he had to build an additional model. And then amazingly, built two different things. So Bo's pretty awesome, very smart young man, and we just wanted to recognize his special achievements tonight.
yeah, this one was
Yeah, you can tell us.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
this one was a smaller one with a 6-inch diameter, which was 1/4 of that one. So it's like very small in comparison.
So I'm just waiting for you to hook it up so my Wi-Fi gets back. Or at least consistent.
Next, I would like to invite Ashwarya Sridhar, who is one of our wonderful mild special education assistants at Maple Grove. And Ashwarya is a well-loved instructional assistant for many reasons, but one, she is exceptionally patient. She is super kind to all students, even sometimes when that's challenging. They know that she loves them and she's going to not only support them, but hold them accountable for their learning. And it's such a fine balance to be able to do both, but she does that with such grace each and every day, and the students love her and they trust her. She's a team player who's appreciated by all staff who work with her. She always has a smile on her face, and she'll do anything she can to be of help to others in and out of the classroom. So for that, we are so fortunate to have you. And lastly, I'd like to invite Jimmy Vergara, which I learned is the correct pronunciation, and I Hoosier-fied it and said Vergara for as long as I've known her. Yeah, she asked which pronunciation I was going to use tonight, and I thought, oh dear, which one have I used for as long as I've known my answers? Yeah, okay. Old habits die hard, so I'll try to get better. But Jimmy just defines really what it means to be an exceptional educator. If you've ever had the pleasure of working with kids from ages 5 all the way up through 11, it takes a special talent to be able to work with all ages, not just one, not just two, but all ages in an elementary school. And I would say Jimmy has a magical way of being able to hold all of their attention. A 5-year-old, you walk into a room and they're just, on the edge of their seats, well, there's no seats. They're on their toes, or leaning forward, they're dancing, they're whatever they're doing. But to listen to what she has to say and to learn about music, and you walk in for the 4th or 5th graders and it's the exact same thing. She just has them, and they love music, and they learn so much in her music room over the course of the time that they are with her. And so the fact that she builds that love, and I don't know if you are at very many of the programs, those of you in here throughout the middle schools and high school, but Jenny is at like all the musical performances, it seems like, supporting her former students, and she, even a few that came in tonight, she's like, oh, here's Quinn. Like, she knows her people, and they know that she still cares for them and supports them along the way, and that's a pretty special thing. So she also does lots of extras at Maple Grove. She is in charge, she has Singing Stars, which is our choral group at Maple Grove. Yes, she did. A folk dance club. She's in charge of our talent show, our Veterans Day program, our holiday program. Basically, half of anything that's special. Maple Grove probably has Jenny's touch on it. So she makes our building a better place each and every day. We're just so grateful for her. Get a picture. Well, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
can I please have a picture? Oh, that's awesome.
Because then I get to run to the high school, because my
There you go.
mentor from who I student taught under is retiring. This is his last concert. I gotta take a picture.
Support someone again. That's right.
Thank you.
I'm looking right here, right next to Mrs. Vergara. Okay, now look at these cameras.
Pictures are of the tips of our hands.
I got up and tried to hide in the
Thank you so much, your neighbor.
Yeah, my neighbor zoomed in and was like, found you.
The corner again. In my day, science fair was who could make the coolest volcano.
Once again, I always enjoy those presentations. It was neat to get to see the science fair presentation here tonight, so thank you for that.
Learned something too.
I think I learned it, and I'll probably forget it as soon as I walk out, but it was very, very good presentation. So next, we're going to have a report on the Strategic Planning Committee. I believe Dr. Taylor is going to give us that, or I'm
Mrs.
sorry.
Conrad.
Mrs. Conrad is going to give us that report. I was looking at the wrong line. Mrs. Conrad, I'll turn it over to you.
Welcome to come up here and help out. All right, thank you. So our last update on our strategic plan was at our February board meeting when we asked you to approve the survey of students as part of our community-wide survey, which also included our staff members. So now the strategic planning process is about halfway through. As we shared in February, we are working with education elements to develop this plan. They have worked with more than 400 school districts across the country, including a dozen right here in Indiana. So on this next slide, you can see the structure of this project includes a project team, which is Dr. Long's cabinet, a steering team, which includes 25 administrators, teachers, parents, community members, and one board member, Miss Jane Dunnigan-Smith. We plan to bring the final plan back to the school board at the end of this process, which will be this summer. As I mentioned, we're more than halfway through this process. You can see the red highlight there is we're getting close to our design day 2. These days are very long. They're 6-hour meetings, and we dig into a lot of information and data. And our next team meeting is going to be on May 28th. And then you can see moving into June is the wrap-up of the process. So looking back, beginning in December, we started this process gathering a lot of data that we had, including demographic information, test scores, and then all of the various surveys that we had conducted. We did some communication surveys, we've done climate surveys, and other things like that, and put all of those things together for this team to start to synthesize. We also selected members of our steering team and focus groups. We asked our building leaders to provide a list of teachers, staff, and parents who could participate on the steering team or the focus groups to ensure that we had voices from every building. We also reached out to our ambassadors and other members of the community who had expressed interest in this process. In February, March, and April, we launched the community-wide survey. So the survey was in February. It was sent out to more than 16,000 parents and community members that we have in our database, as well as all of our staff and our students in grades 5 to 12. We also pushed it out on all of our social media channels and website. As you can see here, we had over 5,300 responses. We conducted 8 focus groups, which included 70 people, including high school students, parents, teachers, non-teaching staff, administrators, support staff, and community members. In April and May, we brought our steering team together for 2 full-day sessions. They combed through the community survey data along with all of the other data we had compiled earlier this year. Education Elements led the team through some exercises to help identify the values and priorities that came through the survey and focus group responses. They then walked the group through creating initiatives for each of those priority areas. Those priorities are what we use to develop the pillars that the strategic plan will be built on. We sent out another survey earlier this week to get feedback, or last week actually, to get feedback on those draft values and pillars and make sure that the steering team is on the right track with the direction that we're going. And that survey actually closes tonight at midnight. And on the next slide, if anyone hasn't taken it yet, shameless plug, you can go to our website, centergrove.k12.in.us/SP survey, and you can take it there. Education Elements will be pulling those results together for our next steering team meeting that I mentioned at the end of the month. And that's when they'll start building out the goals and the strategies that will actually make up the strategic plan. So in that survey, you will see the draft values. They are built on community, empowerment, and learning. That's what the focus is, and you can see some of those definitions there. Also, the draft pillars are also things that we're asking the community to review. They focus on learning, belonging, and communication. And as you can see, these are very broad statements. These are not specific goals yet. These are not strategies, but they will be used to develop the measurable goals and strategies for this plan. So next is this summer, we will bring back the final plan for the board and start working on the systems and processes that we'll need to execute the strategies in the plan. And then, of course, we'll be communicating out what that plan is to all of our stakeholders.
Thank you for the update.
Sure.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I would just say, as a part of the steering committee.
Steering
so-
team.
Okay, thank you. I remember what it's called. As part of the steering team, I think, the sessions I've been to, I had to miss that last one, but they're really well run, and I think that the key to that's been, one, they were all based on the feedback that you solicited through the community. So one, we had a really good basis to start with. And then two, the group that we put together to help shape that is a really nice cross-section of the community. And I think, everyone that's there is very highly engaged. So I just think it's been a great process so far. I'm excited to see where we land.
And Jane, thanks for attending. I know we have a lot of commitments as school board members and having a board member present. I've gone to one in the past and thought it was very helpful. So I appreciate you attending. And Stacy, as always, I appreciate you putting these together.
Sure.
I know it's a lot of time and effort, but it's something we just periodically have to do. We just have to reach out and make sure that we're going in the direction that we should be going in, and get input from others to help guide those decisions. So thank you both and everyone else on cabinet who's participated in that. I think it's a very, very important process.
Yeah, I just want to say Stacy's done a really nice job, really kind of serving as the liaison between Ed Elements and the rest of the committees, and she's done an even more difficult job of keeping us cabinet in line and up to speed on what we need to do and everything. So I just want to make sure everybody knew what a nice job she's done to help facilitate that.
Thank you.
And we look forward to the results.
Yes, as do we.
All right, next on the agenda, we have time for public comment. I see no one has signed up tonight, so we'll move on next to the consent items. I assume everyone's had a chance to review the consent items. Does anyone have any comments or questions as it relates to the consent items? Hearing no comments or questions, do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Dunnigan Smith. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Counts. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we're on to the action items. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Taylor. I was reading the wrong line, or unless you want me to turn over to Stacy Conrad, and she can provide it. So I'll turn it over to you,
I
Jason.
would not have done as nice of a job of strategic planning, so she by far did a better job.
And this is not in any way putting you down, but I believe that statement.
All right, energy savings project. Tonight, we're recommending the board approve contracts with CMTA. This is the company that's been executing all of our energy savings projects. This is from the first phase project, total about $17 million in that full first phase. This is for the roof-mounted unit on Sugar Grove. And after the bids came in, they realized that actually what they had estimated for the budget, it had gone down. And so they're actually recommending some additional controls at 3 different locations. And these basically take current pumps that operate at 100% capacity all the time and add some variable speeds to those so that we can reduce the energy cost there. So they've included in a table of the overall savings. You'll see year 1, it starts at $84,000. They expect us to save that after this installation is complete annually, and it'll grow from there. And this will be the last contract that we bring from that first phase. We're pleased to see that work being completed and will fully be complete as we enter the fall of '26. And we've already seen some of those cost savings, and we'll continue to report and bring those back to the board to show more as projects come to completion. So tonight, we're recommending these contracts for approval.
Any questions or comments from the board? I just have a couple, I guess, and I thank you for bringing this, you and your team, to us originally, because I know we've saved a lot of money that we've been able to spend on teacher salaries and other things. Just give us an overview of how much we've saved. I don't want
So yeah,
the
in
detail.
the first quarter of 2025 alone, we saved $100,000 in actual cost over what we paid for utilities last year. If we layer on the utility increases, we saved even an additional money that we avoided that cost. As you indicated, we directly put that money right back into the operations fund where we pay these utility bills. And that can help us alleviate that transfer back to the ed fund. So it does put money truly back in the pockets of all of our employees, especially our teachers.
And as you said, this is once again is a guaranteed energy savings, so they're guaranteeing we're going to hit a certain level.
That is correct. And if they do not exceed it, we will receive that difference paid to us. It's important to note, too, when I mentioned that number, that really is only inclusive of the solar array at Maple Grove, between it and the transportation building, and some of the control changes they made. They had not yet retrofitted and turned on some of the other buildings, including Sugar Grove and the high school. And so we'll see more savings as we move forward. They probably were about a third of the way done, really, when we got that amount of savings. So
Great.
it's great.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Any other questions? Or
What's the end date that they have to be done by?
Expected to be by the fall of 2026.
One more
Or,
year.
sorry, 2025. I said 26 earlier, too, so
This
thank you
year.
for asking. It will be this coming fall. So really what we had to wait on is Maple Grove will require a all-summer shutdown as we change out its HVAC equipment. That will happen this summer. And so when we come back in September, we will have all of that turned on. When I
These
bring
will be
back
turned
and
on
talk
by
about the
this
budget,
fall.
yep.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that question, because I did misspeak. Appreciate that, Mr. Dean.
Thanks for the clarification. Any other comments, questions? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the remaining energy savings projects.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Projects. Plural.
Now that we've pluralized it, do I hear a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Counts. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is district-wide long-term capital maintenance and equipment. Once again, I'll turn it over to, I'm sorry, I need to back up. We've got a script for this one because this evening's board meeting has been appropriately advertised as a 1028 preliminary determination hearing. Dr. Jason Taylor, Assistant Superintendent, will present information on this topic. So now we'll turn it over for the 1028 hearing to Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. We do have some slides we want to share. Before I get too deep into that, I do want to say this is a rather large project that we're asking the board to consider. This is a project that's going to span multiple years. It's not something we've typically done, but it is something we would like to do, given all of the changes at the state level to property taxes. We feel like this best positions the corporation to adjust these projects as needed to maintain the lowest tax rate and consistent tax rate we can for our taxpayers. And so this actually gives us that flexibility. It also includes some projects that we rely on to allow us to have funding in our operations fund, and therefore not taking those funds from our education fund. So as we enter these slides, I wanted to share that up front and just be real clear why we're asking for such a large project. This is actually a lot of little projects stacked over multiple years to add up. So on the first slide, you'll see that. We're asking the board to consider in this package the 2027 and 2028 district-wide projects. We have done this since 2009. It comes in roughly at about $8 million this year. It does increase ever so slightly as all the cost of these things increase, but this is to purchase and maintain the buildings and equipment that we have. Prior to 2029, this is funding that we would have received through property taxes, and it would have been in our operations fund, back then called capital projects. But since it was removed and the funding stream was removed, we've supplemented that from debt service through those years. And we would ask the board to continue to do that for the next really 3 years as we build the budgets. We do include security upgrades within here, technology equipment, and also we purchase our school buses and vehicles out of these projects. In addition to that ongoing and reoccurring need, we've identified some needs that we have throughout the corporation, really to position us best to not do anything larger in the next 3 years, but to do these smaller projects. The first one is to finish off the south end of the high school campus. As you know, we've removed the Maple Grove Elementary School. We have opened the academic pavilion, and we'll fully open it and use that facility to start next school year. And so this actually will help with some parking there, additional staff and student parking. Also rework some of the parent pickup lines. Right now that queues out on the Morgantown Road, and we want to fix that to improve the traffic flow around the campus. The other thing is actually something similar to what I just shared with the board earlier, is a continuation of our HVAC and energy savings project. This would be the phase 2 of that. It would be additional solar on some schools that currently are not in the project. We've been approached by Johnson County RMC to consider the use of larger battery packs to avoid peak charges, and that would be also a partnership with them that we proceed through this project. And then additional HVAC improvements and upgrades just of the needs throughout our corporation in the buildings that are older that need those upgrades to be made. We've done a great job of upgrading what we have, but we are seeing some cycles where we need to continue to do that. The next bullet then, we would address classroom capacity needs, and this would be throughout the corporation. This would really help us to just give some extra elbow room in the buildings that we have without adding major wings or additions. But to rework some of the spaces we have within our current footprint, and if we were to add on rooms, it would just be 1 or 2 as needed. This also helps to offset the awful R word of redistricting down the road. This gives us some flexibility in the current spaces we have to avoid something like that, and to make sure we're using our space and our square footage as efficiently as possible. And then the final one would just be making sure that we maintain our extra and co-curricular facilities. This is no large major project, but this is just simply maintenance and improvements to what we have. Additional needs as they are identified can be addressed. And a lot of this would take place at the high school and the middle school level where those facilities are. So that all is in the package. And as we move through then, we'll talk about the project funding for this. And there's one slide that has a lot of information. The total package that we're asking the board to consider is $49,500,000. And we've honestly opened the parameters on this slide as much as we can because we do want to be flexible. And if we find that we have debt capacity to make a really large payment one year, we're going to do that. And that's why you see the maximum annual payment could be as much as $15 million. If we don't, and for some reason this would drag all the way out, you also see then the worst case scenarios, which would be that this debt isn't paid off for a long time, it's paid off in a short amount. We have to explain the highest and worst case scenario on this chart, but that's not our intent here. Our intent is to bring these projects back to the board individually to make solid decisions like we have for the past really 15, 20 years on these projects. Also then we note the most current debt levy rates and certified max levy rates and how much of the entire assessed value is devoted in our area toward debt service for the corporation. And then in the big red box, I did want to be clear that we're not anticipating to raise our debt service rate for this. We actually expect these projects to allow us to lower it because they'll be so much more flexible in the way that we can package these as we move forward throughout the next few years. Gives us better control and flexibility of that rate, especially as a lot of things are changing on us in the next 3 to 4 years. Just a reminder of where that debt rate, or that total tax rate sits right now. We're at $1.06. We've been really flatlined and level since 2009, and you can kind of see that. And I also included some comparative numbers there. So while you see the Center Grove current school rates at $1.06, that's also happens to be very close to the statewide average. However, when we really focus on central Indiana, where there's a lot of population growth and continual growth, it's really closer to $1.18. So we are proud that we're able to offer a very cost-effective education and facilities in this corporation at that lower tax rate. And just narrowing down even a little tighter focus, looking at the county itself, you'll see Center Grove ranks 4th of all the public school corporations in Johnson County, lagging behind Edinburgh, Franklin, and Clark Pleasant, all 3 of which have also passed a referendum, and that's represented in the blue bar here. So their base tax rate is higher than ours, and in addition, they have a referendum that gives them additional operating funds every year, and that's reflected in this chart. The final slide is then just some project schedules. Obviously, we do a hearing tonight. We'd ask the board to take action at the hearing in June. We would look to begin receiving some bids on some of the early parts of this project, but a lot of this work's going to continue on beyond 25 into 26, 27, and 28. The earliest we'd make a bond payment if we do move forward with some projects later on this year would be in 26. Again, the last slide's for public comment, but before we go there, I just want to restate that all of these projects will come back to the board at a later date for consideration. Right now, we're just basically asking the authority to issue this debt when we're ready to issue it. A lot of school corporations do take this model. We have not, where they will look at a 5-year large debt package, approve it all at once, and then come back later with the projects. We do feel like, though, with all of the changes, this is the time to make the change and do that, and would not anticipate bringing back a major package again until this work is complete.
Great.
And that's the end of my comments, Mr. Daniels. I'd welcome any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. And I believe before we go to board questions, this is appropriate time for members of the public to comment on the 2026-2028 district-wide long-term capital maintenance and equipping, or any of the information presented this evening. Are there any members of the public who'd like to comment on tonight's presentation? Seeing no response, I do thank members of the public for attending and hearing the presentation. Are there any comments or questions from any board members relating to either the presentation or the proposal? Knowing we don't take a vote tonight, we'll have another chance at this at our next meeting where we will take a vote.
I just think this is being smart, with knowing what the next 3 or 4 years the legislature could be, and some things they've already done. We've got to get ahead of the game before our hands get tied.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Any other comments? Now, I guess to echo Jack's comments, you know, SB 1 makes it a lot more complicated. And I know we'll figure it out and you know, abide by the rules. So I do appreciate the forward-looking of this, and I appreciate the flexibility that this will provide and, you know, our commitment to do everything we can to maintain a steady tax rate. So thanks for your efforts on this, and I know we don't take a vote tonight. So seeing no public comment, no other comments from the board, we'll move to the next agenda item. Thank you. Our next agenda item is the adoption of curricular materials, and I will turn it over to, it looks like I got a group on this one, Mrs. Shannon Carroll Fry, Mrs. Megan Curtis, and Dr. Jason Taylor will be presenting pieces of this. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Shannon Carroll Fry to begin.
Thank you, thank you. So annually, oh, Mrs. Curtis, don't feel like you need to be over there. That's okay. This is Tweedledee and Tweedle, I'll be the Tweedledum.
Okay,
Our annual process of reviewing curricular materials to make recommendation to the board. The materials or the courses that you see on our list annually are cyclical in nature, typically going a 6-year period before reviewing for new materials, or when we have courses that have been new since the last time that We joined in the fall. You always, for the high school, review the course proposals that you can add, so you'll see a few new things on there. So you've had access to this, this list, and if you don't mind, Mrs. Lastly, if you could just kind of scroll through to the high school one. We'll start with the high school. There's 2 pages for the high school. Thank you. You'll see a variety of departments represented here, but I really want to highlight a couple of courses that I'm really proud of our high school for working in. You know, we have new seals for our new diploma for our incoming 9th grade for next year in preparation for that work, and also to be able to offer some of these things to our students who may opt in early. You'll see things on this list, like the second from the end on that list is an insurance certification. I'm very proud to say that we are working in concert with the local, actually not local, but the National Insurance Certification Board, and they are going to use their industry partners to allow us to be able to offer courses. It's a set of courses that kids can leave with an insurance certification and go right out into the workforce. Or even while they're in high school, should they work on that early, they could start to work as a side job that would be different than working at McDonald's or different than working in some of the other great opportunities that our teenagers have. So that's a good one. And if you don't mind to go to the next page for that, Mrs. Lastly, I also want to point out, you've seen before, I think, our Johnson County Advanced Manufacturing Program, which is another partnership. Mrs. Ferguson really has taken the lead in the high school on bringing that to us. We're at the point now where kids are entering that 3rd set in the course series. And so there's some materials for that course that we need to adopt. And the last one I want to point out is we also will be adding a pharmacy tech certification. This is a unique partnership for us because not different from when we during COVID, we had some students take classes from Indiana Online Academy. This is, KLR is a company that offers even to non-high schoolers classes in how to become a pharmaceutical technician. And so our students will be able to do that. There is a reimbursement process through the state that you'll hear us take advantage of more and more over the next few years. One is called a career scholarship account, and students individually can apply for this and then earn, if they earn that scholarship, the state pays KLR directly for those courses, because you may notice that's not a small amount on the per student amount. So when you see that as compared to you'll see on art for middle school, it's 60 cents a student. That's significant. So I want you to know that we're working hard to partner with industry and to partner with the opportunities from the state as a career scholarship account. There's also another reimbursement called the Inters Report, which I won't get into, but those are the highlights of the materials that are on there that I wanted to make sure as a board that you're aware of that we're extending into. Whenever you see a price for a book that is significant, if it's not falling under one of those certifications, it's typically one of our dual credit classes or one of our classes where we have a memorandum of understanding with a university who helps make the selection for those books. And if you remember paying for books in college, they can be more expensive than what we are able to purchase when we're talking K-8. So that is our high school, highlights on our high school. If you don't mind, Mrs. Lastly, to go to the middle school. We just have 2 items on here, the art adoption, and we're pleased to be able to offer the Art of Education University Flex curriculum as a recommendation. That is an online resource that is extremely broad, and the benefit of that is our middle school art teachers, there's 1 in each. So they're covering grades 6, 7, and 8, and they have some students that even will have the opportunity to come again. So we want to be able to offer a flexible resource for them and for our students to be able to really, especially you've seen the key awards and the things where our art department has brought for our high school. So we're recommending that. And then we, again, have gone through the vetting process with the middle school author visit. And so you'll see that the recommended author for next year is Mr. Gordon Corman, and there are a variety of books that, that way the teachers have some selection in which one they will do. The students will get to take that book with them, and will study it along with the middle school author visit. So those are the middle school and high school.
And for the elementary, we are looking at really two, math and PE. For the math curriculum textbook adoption, we are looking at recommending iReady as the math resource for K-5 to support our teachers and our students in the implementation of our new curriculum, standards-based curriculum map for this 25-26 school year. We are only entering into a 2-year agreement so that we can be mindful and support those identified standards for the next 2 years. And then also, the PE teachers are recommending a digital learning platform called Platform, which you can see the abbreviation. And so for that one, this is really a digital tool just basically for our teachers that will help support their lessons and unit plans in supporting curriculum for our students in PE and offering them a wide variety of different choices, again, to support those Indiana standards. We are entering into just a 1-year agreement with Platform.
And as always, our process takes a very long time. It started in the fall. We brought together teachers and administrators at the secondary level. I meet monthly with the administrators and check in with the department chairs as well to see whether we're on track. How's the review going? Are we finding a good support for our Indiana standards and the course needs? And then that results in a top recommendation of a few publishers typically, which then we take to CGIT and ask about how is this going to compare or function with our digital devices, et cetera. And then ultimately we bring it to you. The last thing and important part is that we have had the materials, which have been publicly on display, as well as the notice went out, thanks to Mrs. Conrad, as needed to a few weeks ago. So we haven't had any takers on the ones downstairs, but they have been available for those people to come check should they want to do that. The last item that is a K-12 that I'm just remembering when I looked at Mrs. Christy Berger is that the publisher who had supplied our curriculum for the required K-12 body safety information has gone out of business, so we're bringing a replacement K-12 for that for you this evening as well. Are there any questions that we can answer about the process or the materials we brought to you today?
I was going to ask you about public involvement, but you brought it up because I did see it several times. Here is your opportunity too, so to speak, and I'm glad to hear the teachers were involved, and because it needs eyes from different directions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to share just a little bit about the cost of the curriculum materials. Since this was taken over by the state in the last budget, they provided us with funding for our curriculum material cost, and this is a very similar report to what I brought to the board last May. What was nice this evening is we were just approving materials and not the costs associated with those, so that's great. We do love a free and fair education. However, we do want to be honest and transparent with our cost and with what we're being reimbursed for. And so I've included a lot of grade level numbers here, but at the bottom in the totals, you'll see that on average, our cost of curriculum materials is about $376. And when you multiply that by our total student population, it's a little over 3.6 million. The state reimbursed us at $157, almost $58, at a total of 1.5 million, and that leaves about a $2 million shortfall. We have overcome that shortfall. First, by allocating by allocating $1 million toward the purchase of technology devices to run a lot of these platforms. But then also, we have had to supplement, unfortunately, out of the education fund, about $900,000 to overcome the rest of the needs. This is something we continue to look at and work on. We are aware that many other school corporations have chosen to charge supply fees back to their parents, especially for specialized courses with larger supplies. That is something we're investigating, and if we do pursue that path, we will come back to the board with more information and a recommendation for that. But it is something that we do have to consider, given the strain put on our education fund currently, to make sure that we can recoup some of this lost, the shortage, and what we really need to provide a high-quality education. And I think Dr. Simmons is going to share some other topics, too. We left her off the list of
that's okay.
participants.
I apologize, but before, can I
Yes,
ask about the
sorry.
money, and then we'll go to, so $2 million shortage compared to what we get from the state. This used to be a charge that went through to the parents, right?
Correct.
And then the law changed where they said, no, the state's gonna pay for this. Are we seeing others, school corporations in similar situations
Yes.
where they have
We are.
a significant shortage?
We are, and most of them are high-performing school corporations throughout the state. Very similar to us would be a lot of our peer schools. Not all, but some.
And you mentioned the supplies. If we charge that back, have we quantified what that might mean to the
No,
budget?
just one example from other schools would be about a $30 fee, and it would be for those consumable things that a student might take home. However, it could be things like frogs you dissect, or cosmetic kits, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of examples they've given us, in which we're trying to lay that on top of what we are charging right now, or what we're not charging, to see where it fits. We do want to keep it as low as possible.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate you looking, because, you know, I know the state said they were gonna take it over and pay for it, and
Correct.
doesn't look like it's quite happened.
Correct.
So,
It has not met
but-
our needs. That
But
is
thank
very
you,
correct.
I
Yep.
appreciate that. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dr.
That's okay.
Simmons, I
And
just
so
wanted to ask.
kind of just to add a layer on top of that, knowing that we're looking at these numbers and knowing that there are going to be some adjustments that we're going to need to make, particularly when we look at the education fund moving forward, we are really looking at things through the lens of not entering into long-term agreements for resources. So you heard Mrs. Curtis specifically mention that we negotiated a 2-year contract or agreement for iReady versus a 6-year agreement, which would be very typical of the textbook adoption process. And the 1-year agreement for PE, because we're looking at that through the lens of what are the resources that we truly need to support our staff and students moving forward. So really looking at things through a different lens. If we have programs that are being duplicated or resources that are being duplicated, looking at that through the lens of what's the product or the program or the resource that is truly necessary for our students to have an excellent education, and for our teachers to have the instructional supplies and materials that they need. So it is going to be a shift in thinking. It is going to be a process that's going to take us some time to wrap our hands around when we think about all of the pieces that come together when we talk about curricular materials. Because it isn't just the textbooks, it's the consumable items, and it's some of the supply pieces that our students and staff are used to having in the classroom. So it is going to be a process, we are aware of it, but we are trying to look at some things through a different lens, particularly as we look at the adoption of those resources at the elementary this year.
No, and I applaud that, because, you know, when we see that kind of a number, we want to say, where can we, what do we really need, what can we live without, and are there things we can charge through? So I thank you both. I look forward to a follow-up report as to how both those processes go. And I don't mean to be the only one to speak. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
No, I agree, it's a good idea. In days of yore, you automatically went 5 or 6 months to years, and you just went. The challenges are different now.
They are, and in conversations with some of the representatives of the companies that we're working with, it's also trying to help them understand our perspective in partnering with them to educate our students. Some of them are coming to the table and having great conversations with us, and some of them don't necessarily see the things from the same perspective. So it's going to be a paradigm shift all the way around, because again, that 5 to 6 year cycle allowed us to offset some of that cost over a period of time, and we just don't have that flexibility any longer. So there's just some conversations that are needing to be had so that we all understand what the needs of our staff and students are, so that we can continue to provide the resources that are necessary to implement curriculum.
Any other, Mrs. Counts or Ms. Duncan Smith? Thank you both, appreciate it. We need the motion, right? Do I hear a motion to adopt the curriculum as presented?
I move to approve the, what'd you say?
Curricular materials.
Materials as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Duncan Smith. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you all for your presentations. Appreciate it. Next, we'll get to the school calendar for 2025 and 26. Dr. Taylor, you're lucky you get to present again.
Yeah. So earlier this week, we did receive notification from the Indiana Department of Education that we had once again received performance qualified waiver days. Those are days that allow us to submit our instructional time in minutes instead of 180 days at the end of the year. And so we're going to continue to use that flexibility going into the next school year. And with those waiver days, we're planning to add 2 waiver days, very consistent with what we've done in the past couple of years. So we will start the year with one waiver day, which will change the first student day from July 30th to July 31st. And we will insert a second waiver day on January 5th, thus in turn changing the first student day back for second semester to January 6th. We also on this chart added the official start day for preschool. They start a little after the rest of the students. That's indicated in pink on this chart on August 6th. And we did change graduation date. That's something we had missed last time we brought this calendar to you. Put it on its correct and traditional Sunday following the last week of school. It was a week later on the current public document. So recommending these changes, very consistent with the current school year. And looking ahead to next year, we will be able to start in August and then before Memorial Day. And all things will work themselves back out in that cycle, so.
So I'm sorry, is graduation on Memorial Day weekend? Is it? Okay, I follow you, yeah.
This is another year where Memorial Day is very early, and so it makes it very tough for us not to start in July.
Right.
So we've tried to minimize that as much as we can, but it does correct itself in the following school year.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments as it relates to the proposed calendar?
No, I was just asking Jane, when we run into leap year, it's going to be fun.
2 more years away.
Gives us an extra day.
So to speak.
Hearing no questions, Dr. Taylor, thank you for the presentation. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the 25-26 school calendar.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunnigan-Smith. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Counts. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
So,
Still doesn't meet Scott's expectations. He's missed it by a day.
no, it does.
For
Like you said,
students, it
August.
does.
August. I'm just saying, that was his.
I heard Ray say from him. But I need to talk to you after the meeting.
If you think about it, I mean, we ended a few days earlier than we did last year, so it's still the same.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we're good.
It's the big picture.
Yep, I know.
So that closes our items on the agenda that we need to vote on. I'll make a couple of public announcements. First, May 23rd, 2025, last day for students. Everybody have a safe and enjoyable summer after that, let's hope. Graduation is June 1st, 2025 at the high school. Graduation will be at the Ray Skillman Stadium. The executive session, June 19th, will start at 6, followed by a regular board meeting, June 19th at 7. And then that June 19th meeting will also have a Good for the Grove after it for members of the public to come and share their thoughts with the board. So I'll go around the horn. Mr. Russell, do you have any announcements tonight?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Mrs. Dunnigan-Smith?
I do not.
Mrs. Counts? Dr. Taylor? Dr. Simmers? Dr. Long?
I do want to say that we answered the question that everybody wants to know is, are you smarter than a fifth grader? We were invited to Maple Grove to participate in a contest with the fifth grade class, and I'm not going to tell you how we did, but the answer is no, we're not smarter than a fifth grader. So just leave it at that. But we were smarter than some of the other cabinet members. Just saying.
Sounds like some kind of small traveling trophy
I think maybe.
needs to come out of this.
Or toilets.
I want to recount.
I like that. I like that, too. Thank you. And I have no public announcements tonight, except to tell everybody have a safe, enjoyable graduation in summer. So thanks, everybody, for their efforts tonight. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We'll count that as everybody. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.